I would like to welcome you on this press conference as a President of European Christian Political Movement and a member of European Parliament for Slovakia. And we invited you here to this press conference with a very serious subject. Today we bring to your attention a growing pile of evidence demonstrating the illicit sale of Schengen and medical visa in Malta. These visas have been sold without any proper control to people residing in Libya. The evidence so far points to the very likelihood of involvement of civil servants at the highest level of the Maltese government. It is well known that so-called ISIS state or caliphate is a presence in Libya. The illicit sale of it is also a security threat against the EU, given the sheer scale of this scheme. Mr. Ivan Mintov presented his file of evidence to the above scheme to the Maltese court at 18 June this year, a couple of days ago, and released it to the public at the same day. Today he will present his case here. We emphasize that the evidence presented by Mr. Ivan Mintov is not the only evidence pointing to the scheme. It is the most detailed evidence so far, but the Malta Independent, the newspapers, reported already 2 times about this case in 2016. The Maltese government did not respond to these reports. The Libyans, who came already forward at that time to testify on this matter, were not questioned by the police. The only response to these reports has been that a high-ranking official in the Maltese Prime Minister's office has started 2 libel cases against the Malta Independent. Mr. Mintov delivered his evidence to the court in the framework of these libel cases, demonstrating that the Malta Independent did not break the law, but reported the facts truthfully. A serious part of Mr. Mintov's evidence consists of reported conversations with the Libyans who wanted to testify. Now their testimonies are in the Maltese court thanks to the brave action of Mr. Ivan Mintov. Finally, we point to the fact that the murdered Maltese journalist Daphne Caruana Galizia investigated the same time of illicit sale of visa in Malta to Algeria. In light of the murder of Mrs. Galizia, Libe Committee of the EP already created a working group led by Mrs. Ana Gomez, MEP, who was supposed to be present, and Mr. Giggle to investigate this situation. Their findings have been published and are obvious that the rule of law is under serious pressure in Malta and that Malta is incapable of being a trustworthy Schengen member in current circumstances. We underscore the findings of Mrs. Gomez and Mr. Giegold and thank them for their work. One primary task of the European Parliament is to hold the European Commission to account. This is what we will do today. As I said, it is clear that this is not completely fresh news. I must stress the due of the request that we are making to the European Commission today. The reality is the Commission has hardly made any time to do a serious investigation. They are obliged to do so under Council Regulation EU number 1053/2013, establishing an evaluation and monitoring mechanism to verify the application of the Schengen law. The Commission has a specific link to this regulation at its own website, so they are aware of their duty. They are aware that this is of decisive importance in the case of Malta, as it is a country at a crucial location in the migration debate in Europe. However, the Commission failed to get a serious investigation. Is the Commission afraid of the conclusions they may find? Questions we pose. But there is no reason to negate such an important duty. Mr. Timmermans should have made this a priority instead of pushing for the elimination of small European parties and decreasing and decreasing democracy in Europe, as it was a process of a couple of long last weeks. The fact is that this scandal is here and cannot be ignored. Yes, this makes a political solution for migration more difficult. But what is more important, political convenience or our security? I would say that our security comes first. Therefore, we will today demand that the European Commission will start a serious investigation as soon as possible, and I am convinced that many of my colleagues will stand with us to work for the security of Europe. However, I would like to conclude my speech expressing my deep gratitude and appreciation of the work of my dear colleague, Mr. Ivan Mintov, who is a member of our political party, ECPM in Malta. Thank you for the pledge to speak for the truth. But we can hardly imagine how much has this investigation cost, also you personally, your family. But Europe needs so many courageous people, men and women like you, who are the salt of the light speaking up for the truth. So now I would like to give the floor to you, present your findings.
First of all, thank you very much for all of your support so far. I cannot talk about the actual court case that took part last week because it's under sub judice, but I will talk about the events leading up to my testimony before. In 2016, I hosted a television program, a political television program, and I pointed out that week I pointed out an abnormal amount of visas, Schengen visas and other visas being issued by the Maltese embassies, particularly in Tripoli, and at the same time, the murdered journalist Daphne Caruana Galizia was pointing out the same abnormal amount of visas being issued in the Algerian embassy. After that program, I was approached by who is now called the whistleblower, who is now referred to as the whistleblower, who spoke to me. And he said, there is a massive, massive Schengen visa scam going on. He explained to me, he went to the Prime Minister's office to talk about this. We went to the ministers to talk to them about it. He went to the government. He went to the opposition. He went to the police. He went to everybody he could think of to talk about this abuse, and nobody would listen. He then came to Alianza Bidla, a third party, the third party at the time, who listened, who wanted to know. He left the traditional parties to form a new party because of the corruption. I also happen to work for peace in Libya. I work actively for peace in Libya, and I speak to all the factions in Libya. I spoke to them about this case. Every single one of them confirmed what was going on to me personally. I then wrote an article in my national newspaper about the very same thing again, and of the concerns of these visas. And I invited the whistleblower to come onto the political program to openly state what he told me personally, which he did. He agreed to come. As soon as we announced that this program is going live, all hell broke loose. I was offered any government job I wanted. I was told to name my price. I was even then finally threatened. The whistleblower and his family was threatened. All this is documented in the notes that I created, the file I created. David Lindsay, the editor of the Malta Independent on Sunday, where I write, and who backed these stories, including putting the invoices and the receipts and everything else to back this story, he was taken to court on 3 separate cases. One of them, he was taken by the police, facing criminal action, facing jail, not for the content of what he wrote, but how he presented the content. This dossier, this note, these notes that have taken 2.5 years to compile, is a history, is a timeline, is full of references to what the whistleblower initially claimed. It includes in here transcripts of recordings which I personally did with people who wanted to talk about this case but were not given the chance to talk on an official basis. They include generals in the Libyan army, they include people who work in the office of the Prime Minister, they include wounded people who wanted medical assistance, they include many others who all state one thing, that especially this particular person of trust, of the Prime Minister's trust, who works in his office, asked for millions of euros for him to issue medical visas. It is not me saying it, it is they saying it, and they are taped, and they are willing to testify in court. So there is an allegation, a very, very strong allegation, that there was abuse in Malta on medical visas, student visas, business visas, and up to 88,000 Schengen visas issued in a country which, as my colleague has stated, ISIS or Daesh is active, against illegal payments and without the proper Schengen checks taking place. I can go into that detail later on, I don't have time to do it now, but definitely the proper checks were not done as they should be done. All this by people and included a trusted employee of the Prime Minister working in his office. Now, normally, such a matter would fall under the national competence, under the competence of the Maltese government. But for 2 years now, for 2 years, my Prime Minister, his government, the police, all the authorities have been fully aware of such claims and accusations. No action has been taken to verify fully and to take any action against any abusers. The police have not even interviewed these valid witnesses who wish to testify, to put forward evidence, despite the police knowing who they are and where to contact them. Finally, the Commission itself knows it has reports. It knows that about these issues, and it admits itself, even up to last week, that it has serious concerns about the passport sales and the issuance of visas by the Maltese government and authorities. If it knows, and is concerned about all of this, then I ask it to start an immediate investigation into how its own Schengen visa system is being abused, and how this abuse would be putting all the EU citizens in very clear danger. I thank all of the present MPs and the ones who have backed us who are not present here today. I thank them for the last 2.5 years. You have been backing us on this. I thank them for seeing the importance of what we are stating here and how the Commission must start its own investigation. Finally, I urge all other MEPs to look at this evidence and to back, at least to back, an initiative so that there is an investigation in this. Not only for my country's sake, but of course also for your own country's sake. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ivan. Now, here's a space for your questions or remarks. Enjoy.
Sorry, fill us in a little bit. I mean, the Commission must be aware of this, and the Council must be aware of it. So, if I missed it, I'm sorry, but what response have you had from those official bodies to this abuse of their own system?
Okay. Thank you for the question. Thank you very much for the question. Anna Dox's team actually presented their findings. They came to Malta and they presented their findings to the Commission. The response has been, well, it's a national competence and therefore we cannot interfere. I beg to differ, because the international competence, of course, falls under an EU framework, which is clearly not being adhered to. And because it's not being adhered to, it is putting our citizens in clear danger. Let me try to explain my main concerns. Very briefly, of course, I can't go into too much detail, but when somebody walked into, because now it's closed, into the Maltese consulate in Tripoli, he would present his passport and ask for a Schengen visa or a business visa or whatever. That passport was being issued by the Tripoli government, as you know, Libya's different authorities. The Maltese government had no official, no unofficial contact with the Tripoli government. My initial question, therefore, would be, if I go into the Libyan embassy, the Maltese embassy in Libya, the Maltese consulate, and present my passport, how can a Maltese official even check if that passport is a valid passport, is a real passport, if it's my name is the correct name on that passport, if there is no connection between this government and the government that issues those passports in the first place? Am I explaining that part properly? There is no way the Maltese government, the Maltese authorities could check even the validity of that passport that it was actually issuing visas on. And it issued over 88,000 of them. This is confirmed by the Tripoli authorities, by the Secret Service, who at the time, 2 years ago, throughout, have been telling me, go and talk to your government, we are willing to check those passports before you even stick a visa on them. Nothing has been done. That's the first check. How can one issue a Schengen visa in 1.5 days when the Schengen visa process is going to take a minimum of 14 days? How can a Maltese consulate alone issue 300 Schengen visas a day, without the proper checks? With the proper checks, I apologize. How can 300 Schengen visas a day be issued by one consulate with the proper checks? All these questions need to be asked. The people are willing to talk, the witnesses are willing to come. I say again, generals, people who work in the office of the Libyan Prime Minister, they have been recorded, they have stated facts, they want to come to the Maltese courts. They have not even been interviewed. They are willing to be interviewed by the police. They have not even been called up to testify. All this is wrong. All this is wrong. And it doesn't just affect Malta, it affects all of Europe.
I only do add a little note that we also have compiled and prepared a letter to Commission. Also, we do address Mr. Timmermans. And there is a question at the bottom part of our letter, and I would cite: the Commission exercises a great scrutiny of conditions on the external border of the new members of Schengen area, which are the reason why Bulgaria and Romania are still not part of the Schengen. Can the European Commission prove the same standard of security applies to actual members who enjoy the freedom of movement within Schengen? And in light of this report, the evidence presented by the Malta Independent Mr. Mintov, and given the mentioned regulation, we urge the Commission to start an investigation, and we also expect that the Commission will conduct an internal investigation that will investigate why there has been no action from the Commission in this matter, regardless the clear public signals. Because already 2 years, people are trying to address to be in public sight. I think it's serious.
You're not going to get anywhere with the Commission, because your answer is the standard one I get whenever I raise the fact that EU law isn't being properly implemented in EU countries, usually to the detriment of British citizens who are living there, and they just tell me, oh, well, it's a national matter, there's nothing we can do about it. Two questions really. Have you had much take-up from European press and media in reporting this? And is your file available on the internet? Because probably that's a better way of getting information out, is to actually get people to circulate that far and wide on the internet, preferably with a summary at the front of the main points.
Let me answer this in reverse order. Yes, it's available online. Even the tapes, I recorded people, so you can actually hear these people say to themselves, yes, we were asked by this particular person so much money at this time, this place, etc., etc., etc. Yes, we are willing to come and testify. Yes, we are willing to meet. So everything is actually available on our website, alianzabidla.com. If anybody wants my card afterwards, I can give them the links. That's the last question. Your second question was?
Well, the first question was about the Commission, and we're going to get about the Commission. Have any of the European press and media, broadcast media, taken this story up?
The day that I went to court to present this document to court, in the evening on RAI, the Italian national TV report, which is the biggest political program, did a feature about this. So it was that fast, it was that important to the Italians. We've had press coverage through Italy, through Slovakia, we've had coverage through Britain. Newsnight have said they want to do a full program on this as well. We've had coverage through France, we've had coverage through Belgium, we've had coverage everywhere. Guess what? In Malta, on national TV, such a big issue where the office of the Prime Minister is being accused of such fraudulent activity, of such major security breaches. On national TV, 8 o'clock news, top news, the news was about a piece of a fountain being stolen, about a dog dying, being poisoned, and such things. Nothing whatsoever was mentioned about something of such national and international importance. We are being accused here of fraudulent use of the Schengen visa, and it reported nothing. The other newspapers, the independent newspapers, everybody else reported and reported and reported. The state-controlled news, nothing. With regards to the Commission and its usual uses, well, you know, it's about time that the Commission was held accountable for its own regulations, its own systems. If it says that there are regulations to control, then it must apply them, or as has happened certainly in Malta right now, it loses credibility. It gets accused of being complicit in such activity. If it knows about it, and instead of doing something about it, it turns a blind eye. For 2 years, it's not looking after the EU citizens' interests at all. This is why I implore all MEPs to push at least for an investigation, to see if what these people are saying, if the evidence they all want to produce is valid. Because my government has ignored it, totally nothing. It must, somebody along the line must be held accountable. It's pointless spending billions on security and what's the word, intelligence and all this kind of thing. If you've got 88,000 Schengen visas who can be bought like this, and it's still happening today, Gerard, it's still happening as we speak now. Schengen visas are still being issued in this manner. What is the EU Commission going to do?
Well, sorry, I don't want to hold all the questions, but there is I can't remember what the rule number is, but there is a rule in the Rules of Procedure which says that the Parliament can ask for an investigation into something, and you need a certain number of MEPs to propose it. Well, one time I tried it, it wasn't successful, but I think we need to do that, to actually push for an investigation by the Parliament, and you can get a vote in Parliament for that if you can get enough MEPs behind it. So we can look up the rule, and if somebody wants to take leadership on that, then perhaps we could do that. And the obvious thing is that the Commission should remove Malta from the Schengen area if they can't be trusted.
I'd just like to add one more thing as well, if I may. Sorry, I apologise, but just one thing. Since the story has broken, I have been approached over and over and over and over again by new people who want to testify. The EU must, the Commission must listen to these people. It must, because we are all opening up Europe unnecessarily. We must do something about this.
Are you going to ask a question?
Certainly we will try to reach as many as possible MEPs. I think this would bring quite disappointment and we will get these signatures. If there are no more questions, I would like to...
Is that what you wanted to say?
Thank you for your attention. Thank you very much, and we will inform of a new binding on the whole thing.